Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. If you haven't guessed already from that introduction, it's vineyards that I'm into today, and I have two wild grapes, both of which were growing on my property, and I potted them up. And I've got my pretend vineyard in a plastic pot to plant these on. And that's what I'm going to get started on today. Let's start with the older one first. I put this in this pot probably 3 years ago. We're coming up on 3 years. Oh, and that just answered a question for me. I wondered if this was dead, and it is. I'm not going to try and grab it. I'm just going to let it try and fall out of the pot. There's a bud down low that I don't want to mess with. All right, this is a new species for me. I don't know what wild grape roots look like, but there appear to be a lot of roots in here. And looks like I put styrofoam at the bottom of this. Didn't remember that at all. All right, let me try to start raking this out. The surface roots are beginning. I don't know if I'm going to get much more in the way of trunk out of this, but we'll see. Must have had a brother at one time. That must be what I mowed down. This is a fun one for me. I live in a place where there are lots and lots of vineyards. Looks like some industrious squirrel buried a hickory nut. This is very rich, loamy soil. Probably was a potting mix that I had. There's no bonsai soil in here. All right, so this is going to be good. This is going to be a nice shallow planting. I love these chopsticks. They're so thin you can use it to straighten out the surface roots very easily. And these are looking beautiful. All right. I'm going to dispose of this styrofoam before it starts turning into little pieces of styrofoam. Wasn't a brother, just a stick. Oh, maybe I had it supported. I know it grows pretty incredibly. And it's got a whole side of the root system. It doesn't appear to be doing anything. Yeah, so this is just in my yard. I brought it into the greenhouse a while ago just so it wouldn't be frozen. And I knew I wanted to get an early start on my projects, this being one of them. Ooh, look at that. Drainage screen. We have a little escapage here. Not much. Yeah, that side is from an earlier iteration of this tree. pre-digging. It was growing along my fence line. Look at that. Mostly being choked out by the wisteria that grows there. Now, this is going to fit nicely. And I was only going to use one tree. Then I saw that other one growing in my front garden. I just had to dig it up. So that was a quick dig. Probably broke a lot of root doing it. I'm going to set this aside and work on the other one. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have as many roots to choose from in here. Got some roly-polies, some mealybugs walking around in there. I don't think they hurt anything. Yeah, this was a fast dig in the fall, so it hasn't had a chance to do much. And I know I didn't get too many roots. Oh, but I might have gotten a little more trunk. Look at those little mealy bugs. Big taproot. That whole thing is coming off. Maybe not the whole thing. That's pretty bad, but it's alive. Let's see what I can do with it. All right, I'll go wash that off, clean up, and we'll do some root work. Okay, the fate of this one is really unclear to me. This root right here seems to have some life in it. Everything below that is not good for me at all. So I'm just going to cut it off. And maybe I'll plant that, see what happens. This has life, but very little. I'm sure everything that had really good life, I wrecked when I dug this up hastily. Even this heavy root has life. There's one right above it that also has life. I'm not going to risk taking any more off of this. Maybe a little in the length here. And a little in the length here. And here. And water it profusely and hope it does something for me. Now this one gives me a lot to choose from. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this big, ugly, bulbous thing that probably represents years of underground growth. I mean, when we first moved in here, this always would pop up. It was right in the middle of my yard, and I always mowed it down and always wondered, well, what could I do with that? And now I don't have to wonder. Maybe I'll plant that up and see what happens. This root's kind of ridiculous. But it's not bad up until this. Actually, it subdivides here, and those look like very healthy roots, so I'll cut it there. I think I'm going to tackle the underside first. That looks dead. That looks dead. these big fat rubbery things that look dead. It looks dead. The one next to it looked alive, but I nicked it. You gotta be careful. And the thing I'm going for is flat and radial. And these little light colored feeder roots are the ones that I want to survive. And these big fat ones, well, they've seen better days. That one, nice root, but I don't think it helps me. Here's another fat thing that's coming off. It's funny, some of the old roots have little skinny new roots growing down the center of them and out the bottom of them. Kind of a strange thing. All right, I think that's all I want to do with the root base. Let me just go around the profile now. And just cut the ends off. I'm not seeing any white tips, except on some of the stuff I cut off. But that would have been in the deepest part of the pot. And there's plenty above it to support the tree. Here's a funny root. Where's it good up to? It's good up until here. Here's another root that cocks back around. Do I care? I got a place to cut it right here. I don't care really. And that's it. Okay, both trees are ready to plant. And that's what I'll do next. Well, after a great deal of reflection, I've decided to let this one grow out in its own pot. And maybe I can style it a little bit better, either as a replacement or an addition to that other pot. So here I go. Let me get some soil in there. It's probably a good height. The roots are not very arrangeable, but I'll do the best I can. And I'm just hoping for the best here. This should do well. If it survives, it should do well. And since there's not many roots, I'm just going to tamp this down, and that should be enough. I don't think I have to work anything in anywhere. There's nothing to work in anywhere. Okay, I'm going to water this, and we're just going to let it leaf out here in the greenhouse. It should do okay. We won't be taking it outside since it's got such an early start, and we've still got some lot of cold weather coming up. It's a little weird. Okay, here goes the water. You might as well do this with this plant. I went to the trouble of digging it up. I guess I could have been a little bit more careful. But I think it had started to rain. It's late in the day, and I finally decided, yeah, let me get it. And that's why the roots look like that. So let's see if this does anything in the future. This is the one that's going to be really special. These drainage screens are glued in. I'm not sure if that was a good idea or not, but I'm going to give it a shot, see how I like it. All right, so with this being the only tree, I'm going to put it here and try and trap it while I'm doing it. These two are the trappers, and then these two are just to climb on. So let me get a base layer of soil in here, and we'll get around to positioning it. Okay, that's trap. Checking the height in the pot. It's a little too high. Still a little too high. I know you can't see that, I'm sorry. I want to make it a little bit lower, and then I'll pull it up. Yeah, that's the height I want it to end up in the pot. So I got to go just a little bit lower. I'm almost going to lose this trap. I'm really going to have to work that soil in. I don't want to go any higher than that. All right, this is good. This is good. I'm trying to think about how to decorate this. And it's supposed to represent a vineyard, right? They usually have a walking path on either side of multiple arbors like this. So maybe moss to here and moss to here to represent the walking path. And of course I want these little pads covered, you know, my anchors. This is fun. This is how we bonsai people have fun. I know many of you out there will agree with that. I'm not going to name names, but this is the kind of fun we have. I think I put this together last September. I put the pot together last September. So I've been thinking about this one for a long time. I tried to make the post look weathered. I don't know if I've gotten that point across very well. But I tried. Trying to make it so this is not wiggling at all. I'm getting there. It's a little off center, but I'm okay with that. All right, let me top it off. Get this watered, and that will be that. Really glad I made a big bin of soil, because my next endeavor is a pretty big forest. Probably should have made these anchors a little bit lower. They may show through more than I'd like at some, one point or another. But there again, in this particular one, the tree is definitely the focal point. Everything else is just fun and games. Yeah, so I'll just guide the vines as they grow along here and hope they secure themselves with their little hooks and games that they play. A little bit more soil. I've seen some vineyards at the end of each row, they have a little rose bush in a pot. So if I can find a little, I don't know, a little miniature tea rose or something, I'll put it in a pot right here on either side, like a little terracotta pot, those little tiny ones. I'll have to take those in the winter, but this whole thing can stay out. All right, there it is. My miniature wild grape vineyard that I hope produces little miniature wild grapes. If you like this, please give it a like. If you like my content, please share it. Please subscribe. It's really helping me out. I'm getting close to 900 subscribers. On my way to 1,000. I sure would appreciate the love. All right. Once again, this is Steve, and thank you for keeping me company in my backyard.